A guest in the house. Alias. Jessalyn rested on my chest, as she had suddenly fallen into a deep sleep. I placed her gently on her side of the bed before I got up. I needed to go get Lincoln. I threw on some comfortable clothes and my shoes. Then I walked out of the room without making a sound. I hurried down the stairs, and I was ready to head out until I heard a soft knock on the door. I walked over to the door and opened it. Lincoln stood there sweating. "I was just coming to get you," I told him. Lincoln rolled his eyes before he walked into the house. I shut the door before I turned to him. He took a seat on the couch and sighed. Sasha wanted me to spend the night, but I didn't want to get her in trouble, either. Lincoln explained. "Trust me, I would have wanted to spend the night with her and my kids, but Lucas is not an idiot. He will find out sooner or later that I'm spending time with her. Then we'll space out the time for you to see her hell. You could even come over here with her, if that's the case. They already came through here once. They're not afraid to come here again." I sighed before I took a seat on the couch beside him. "What do you want to do then?" I asked him. I just want us to get this done with so we could be done with Lucas bullshit." "Well, we'll get started this Friday. I wanted to spend time with her since she just got released from the hospital. There's no way she's going to let me leave tomorrow." "That's fine." Lincoln yawned, and I got off the couch. "You don't have to sleep here," I told him. "I have a spare bedroom. You could stay in until we leave Friday." "You sure?" I nodded, and Lincoln hurried off the couch. We walked up the stairs, and I pointed to the room that came up first. "You can sleep there," I told him. Lincoln walked to the closed door and opened it before he turned to me. "Thanks," he said before he walked in and shut the door behind him. I walked back into my room and removed my clothes, placing them back into the correct place. Then I came back to the bed and laid down. Jessalyn groaned before she turned to me. "Are you okay?" she asked me in her little raspy voice. I turned to her and nodded. "We have a guest for a minute," I told her. "Who?" "Lucas' friend." Jessalyn, slowly, sat up on the bed and glanced over at me. "Why did you bring him here?" she asked me. "He has to work with me." "So?" I rolled my eyes at her and shrugged. "Dude seems better than Lucas and the others of his pack." "Who is he?" "Which one of them did you allow inside your house?" "Lincoln." She stopped talking for a moment. "I didn't meet him. Looks like Lucas doesn't keep him in his business, like that he must be in the lower pack." Jessalyn sighed. "So, are you really going to do that?" "I have to keep you safe, Jessalyn. It was my fault for getting you into it. So, when are you leaving to do this mission?" "Friday. This Friday." "Yes." Jessalyn moved over to me, slowly. "What am I to do while you're going out? How long will you be gone for?" "I must find them once I get rid of them. I'll be back." She didn't say anything. I'm sure she was upset. The face she made was clear to me. She wasn't too happy about the idea of me killing anyone because of Lucas. However, I wasn't going to let her get turned into a wolf by Lucas. That was a big negative for me, and I hoped she would understand that what I was doing was for her. "Let's just go to sleep," I told her. "Now I can't." I wrapped my arms around her waist and she hissed, forcing me to pull away from her. "Does it hurt you?" I asked her. She nodded, and I put my arm back down on my side. Jessalyn lowered herself back down before she turned back to me and wrapped her arms around me. "Is that better?" I asked her. "Yeah, it is." Jessalyn lifted her head up at me, and her lips pressed against mine. Just her doing that I wanted to fuck her, but I wasn't the one to fuck her on her period. I just never did it and wasn't going to start now. Stop, I whispered. You don't want to kiss me. It makes me want you more. She licked my bottom lip before taking it in her mouth and sucking on it. I'm sorry, she whispered. Once you heal, I promise I'll make it up to you. She pulled away from me and nodded. Okay, she told me. She laid her head back down, and I silently cursed myself. I have never rejected sex ever. A moment later, I could hear the soft snores from her. It didn't take long for me to close my eyes and join her either. Hey, I heard a whisper. Wake up. I opened my eyes and saw Lincoln standing above me. What are you doing in my room? I asked him. Lincoln told me. I sighed before I sat up on the bed and raised an eyebrow at him. He handed me a tray of food, and I couldn't lie. The aroma had my mouth drooling. It even had my stomach growling. I took the tray from him and immediately dug into the food. Jessalyn was beside me, eating as well. After this, we need to talk, Lincoln told me. He walked out of the room and left us to eat. After we finished, I helped Jessalyn out of bed and took her to the bathroom. She used the bathroom and she freshened up before I helped her out of the room and down the stairs. Lincoln was downstairs already, waiting for us. I helped her onto the couch and then I headed back upstairs to grab the tray from my room. Once I came back down, I walked into the kitchen to wash the dishes that were used. Lincoln walked in a few minutes later and stood against the refrigerator. Thanks for breakfast, I told him. I used to do this for my mate before Lucas banned us from seeing them. He explained. I finished the dishes and turned to him. I'm not your mate, though, I told him. Nor is she. I know it was more of a thank you meal for letting me spend the night and helping me with seeing my girl. We're not as bad as you think we are. I'm not going to lie. It's still hard for me to get that I will be helping you with getting rid of the wolves. It'll take some time. Lincoln smiled. Then he glanced around the kitchen. I was wondering if I could spend some time with my family today. I'll take you later. I want you to be here, just in case. I get it. Don't know if you'll pop up or something. Just as he said that, his phone rang in his pocket. He took it out and answered it. Yeah. He answered it. Yeah, I'm with him, sure. Lincoln handed the phone over to me, and I sighed before I took the phone from him. I placed it against my ear, and I heard a soft chuckle. So, how is everything? Lucas asked me. When are you going to do my mission? We're leaving Friday, I told him. I'm going to be here to help Jessalyn. Lucas chuckled again. Don't fail me, Alias. You know what will happen if you do. Your sweet Jessalyn will be turned by me. I understand, but a quick warning for you. If that ever were to happen, just know that I will collect your fucking head. Lucas burst into a fit of laughter before he hung up the phone. Sighing, I handed the phone to Lincoln and walked out of the kitchen. I needed to cool down for a second because Lucas pissed me off. Alias. Jessalyn called my name. I'll be back, I told her as I walked towards the door. Am I coming with you? Lincoln asked. I turned to him and nodded. Yeah, I told him. Let's go. Stuck at home. Jessalyn. As Alias and Lincoln left the house, I swear, I could feel the loneliness and the fear. I did get taken from here, so I knew I was going to need to get someone over here to keep me from going insane and in panic mode. I got up, slowly off the couch, and walked to the door. Before I got a chance to unlock it, a slight knock was heard, coming from the other side. I could just hear my heart stop as I waited to hear who it was on the other side of the door. Yeah, I answered so softly. Girl, open the door. Mia shouted at me. Sighing with relief, I opened the door and Mia walked in. She hugged me as gently as she could before she closed the door behind her and helped me back over to the couch. Why are you here? I asked her. I thought you were going to be with Adonis. Alias told me to come over here with you. He had to do something, so I told him I would stay until he got back. The way he sounded, though, it was obvious that he wasn't going to be back for a long time. I knew it. Whatever he was doing, it was clear it had something to do with Lucas. I sighed as I sat back down on the couch, trying to keep the pain down. My pills from the clinic were upstairs, and I had no energy to go back up there. Mia glanced up the stairs, then back to me. Are you okay? She asked me. I need my pills. I told her. I'm in so much pain. Mia looked at me with a sad expression on her face. Babe, you just almost died. She reminded me. If Alias didn't wake up from being thrown from that car, you would have lost too much blood. But I wish I had, though. I wiped the tears off my face and looked towards the TV. Can you get me my pills from my medicine cabinet in the bathroom? And can you pass me the remote for the TV? Of course. Mia walked over to the TV stand and grabbed the remote. Then she turned and walked back over to me. She handed me the remote to the TV, and I pointed the remote at the television, pressing the power button to turn it on. I'll be back, Mia told me. She walked up the stairs, and I sat there, trying to watch the shows on there. However, it wasn't trying to give me a break. There were mothers, pregnant women, and women giving birth. They even had women finding out they were pregnant and confessing to their men that they had a bun in the oven. Just seeing that woman hold her newborn child caused the waterworks to start up for me. I was happy Alias wasn't around. Maybe I needed that. Jessalyn. Mia called my name. Baby, what's wrong? I covered my face up and continued to cry. She wouldn't have understood what I was going through. Nobody would. I just wanted my baby back. I wanted to be a mother and to find out that one of my tubes got punctured from the tree branch. Hurt my soul. I miss my baby. I cried softly to Mia. I miss it so much. Mia sat on the couch beside me and wrapped her arms around me. I shook my head and cried some more. I'm sorry, honey, Mia told me. I wish that had never happened to you. I dried my eyes and rested it on her shoulder. I wonder how Alias feels. I told her. He was the one that planned it, really. Alias asked you for a baby. I nodded. Yeah, he told me he wanted one, and that's how it happened now. I don't even know what he's thinking. You need to ask him. How? I'm scared he might blow the fuck up on me, just for a simple question. It seems like this is causing problems. It's clear he feels guilty. I know he does. I said some things just like he did. And I feel like I provoked him during a bad time. What do you mean? That argument we had gotten into it with over the situation with Lucas and his pack. That was the reason why we got into it. He told me to stop and I kept on going, just yelling and screaming at him. Did he crash the car intentionally? I looked up at her and shook my head. No, not at all. I said something that made him glare at me, and when he did, that's when the car sidetracked and we hit the tree. Mia released me and I sat up, hissing in pain. I'll go get you some water, okay? I nodded and Mia got off the couch. While she walked away, I turned my attention back to the TV and stared at it. For some reason, I wasn't in the mood to watch it. I was just in a deep thought. Hell, I didn't even see Mia when she came back from the kitchen until she snapped her fingers in front of my face. I'm sorry, I told her. Here, eat this. She told me, holding a peanut butter and jelly sandwich in my face. I grabbed the plate and began to eat the sandwich. Once I finished, I put the plate to the side and looked at Mia. She held a cup of water and ibuprofen for me. I took the pill before I grabbed the cup of water and chugged it. I finished up and handed the cup back to Mia. I'll pour you some more and bring it back, so you can have something to drink. Mia walked away, and again, I was alone. Ugh, why did that incident traumatize me so fucking much? Mia came back with some more water and placed the cup on the table beside me. Can you bring me my phone? I asked her. I wanted to call Alias. Sure. Mia left again, and when she came back, my phone was in her hand. I grabbed it from her and dialed Alias' cell phone number. Then, I placed the phone to my ear, listening to that annoying dial tone. Yeah. Alias answered the phone moments later. When are you coming back? I asked him. Not until later on. Why? Did you want to eat dinner with me? You can't cook, but I can order us something. Sure, but I won't be back until later on tonight. I wanted to go over some stuff before I head to Los Angeles tomorrow night. I wish I can come with you. Alias got quiet. But you know you can't, right? He asked me. Yes. I told him. I just hate that I'm going to be alone after all of this. Have Mia and Adonis with you? I'll even call Aiden to come through. Are you sure? About what? Your brother coming over. Yeah, I'm sure unless he wants me to fuck him up. He knows to behave himself. I chuckled. Okay, well, what do you want for dinner? Whatever. There's something I really want for dinner that I can't have. And what's that? Alias stopped for a second. You. I bit my lip and smiled. You have to wait. Oh, I know. When that time is over, you already know. I wanted to ask him what I was feeling earlier. Taking a deep breath, I decided to come up with the right words for it. What's wrong? Alias asked me. I needed to ask you something. I sighed. It's about the baby I wanted to ask Di. Oh shit. Jess, I have to go. I'll see you when I get back. Wait, what about dinner? Surprise me. I love you, baby. Just hearing him say that warmed my fucking heart and soul. I love you too. Bye. And he hung up. New mission. Alias. We stopped at a gas station before we headed over to our destination, which was to see my grandfather Kirk. I needed his advice on some shit, especially about the Lucas situation. I stood by my car, pumping the gas while Lincoln grabbed something to snack on from the inside of the gas station. He came back to the car with chips and soda as I was putting the pump back in the slot. I put the cap back on, then I closed the gas door. Right as I was walking to the driver's side of the car, a truck pulled up to the car. Shit. Lincoln cursed as he put the snacks in the car and closed the door. Please, don't start nothing. I won't start if they don't. Lincoln rolled his eyes at me and turned back around to face the men in the car. 4 guys got out, and immediately I knew they were wolves. The smell of dog was thick in my nose, and I hated it. One of the guys, wearing a red hoodie, walked over to Lincoln and stopped in front of him. He turned his attention to me before he pulled his fist back and slammed it into Lincoln's stomach. Lincoln released a loud growl as he bent over in pain. I come to find you, and Lucas told me he sent you with a fanner. The guy shouted at him. I know that's not the little brother I had raised. Watch your mouth with that word, I warned. The guy snapped his glowing brown eyes at me. Watch how you're talking to me, bloodsucker. This is between me and my little brother. I don't fucking care. You're not going to talk shit about me while I'm here. Respect me like I'm respecting you by not putting my foot up your ass. All 4 of his men glared at me, their eyes staring back at me like daggers piercing the skin. You must not know who you're fucking with. Lincoln's brother shouted. How about I show you? Mason, don't. Lincoln groaned out. Please, I need him if I want to go back to the pack. Mason flashed his long canines at me before he turned to his brother. You're a disappointment. You know that. He shouted at his brother. You're so lucky I don't beat your ass right now. It wasn't my fault. Lucas chose me to go with him for this fucking mission. What mission? For Liam and them. He wants them gone, and he wanted me to go with him. That pick. Are you fucking serious? Lincoln nodded, and Mason shook his head before he turned back to me. He backed away from his brother and whistled, calling his boys back as well. You better get it down, Fanger. Mason told me, if my brother gets hurt, then I'm coming after you. He'll be safe. I told them. We'll see. Mason got back in the truck with his men and they drove off. Lincoln turned to me and shook his head. Do you always say shit that'll get you in trouble? Lincoln questioned. Yes, I do. But I always back my shit up when it comes to a fight. I told him, are you okay to continue this trip with me to my grandfather? Yeah. Lincoln sighed. He got in the car and I got in as well. I started the car up and drove away from the gas station. You better have a good fucking reason as to why you brought a fucking dog to my house, boy. Kirk said as he met me outside. I do, and that's why I'm here to talk to you. I told him. Humph. Kirk glared at Lincoln for a minute before he turned and walked back through his front door. I patted Lincoln on the shoulder before I followed Kirk into the house. Lincoln walked by my side. Staying close, we walked in, and Lincoln closed the door behind him. Come into the kitchen, Kirk told us. Are you boys hungry? Hell yes, Lincoln said. Kirk chuckled and pointed to the table. Lincoln and I walked over to the glass table and took our seats. Kirk brought over our plates filled with steak, mashed potatoes, and some corn. Still living the rich life, huh? I asked Kirk. Kirk took a seat with his plate in his hand. He chuckled, turning his eyes at me. I'll always be richer than you, grandson. He joked. Don't say that. I laughed. Kirk took a bite out of his food and moaned. So, what can I help you with? Kirk asked. I need information on this wolf pack I'm to get rid of. Okay, and who are they? The Blue Moon Mafia. Lincoln told him. Kirk stopped eating and looked up at Lincoln before he turned his attention to me. Why them? Kirk asked. They did something to Lucas. That wolf from the Red Moon. Why the hell are you working for him? I sighed before I explained everything that happened, especially about Jessalyn losing our baby. When I finished, Kirk shook his head at me. You messed that girl up. You know. He asked me, what am I to do? I asked him. I don't want to lose her, and I'll be damned if Lucas turns her. You need to protect her. Lincoln told me. Take care of her. Show her that you love her. A woman that loses a child can go insane, especially with a husband staying out and not being by her side afterwards. He gets it, Kirk said, taking another bite out of his steak. I turned to Lincoln, and Lincoln ate without saying another word. Was there something he wasn't telling me? I nodded before I went to eating my food as well. I must warn you, though, Kirk said. About what? I asked him. They might be a small pack, but they're very powerful. Really? Yes. Lincoln chimed in. Especially my cousin Tank. My eyebrows raised up and I turned to him. I have to kill your cousin. I questioned. Lincoln smiled and shook his head. You won't have to. Tank is very dangerous, and he has been considered Liam's right hand. You can't get to Liam without getting through Tank. Damn, I thought. I was going to take another bite of food, but then I stopped. Oh, fuck. I shouted, getting up from the table. What's wrong? Kirk asked me. I was supposed to have dinner with Jessalyn. Lincoln got up and grabbed the plates. Kirk got up as well and grabbed the plates from Lincoln. Go be with her. Kirk told me. That mission. It can fucking wait. I stared at him and nodded. He was right. I needed to be with her. I wanted to be with her. Lincoln shook Kirk's hand before the both of us walked out of the kitchen and headed over to the door. Be safe. You too, Kirk told us. Thanks, Gramps, I said before I opened the door and walked out of the house with Lincoln behind me. We got to my car, and when Lincoln got close, I grabbed him and slammed him against the car. Lincoln groaned before he glared at me. Let me go, he shouted. Not until you tell me what you know about Lucas. Dude, what the fuck are you talking about? I know just as much as you do. Yeah. Well, that little cute quote you said in the kitchen proved otherwise. Now, talk. Lincoln shoved me back inside. Lincoln's not going to leave Jessalyn alone. He finally told me. Excuse me? He likes her, regardless of what we do. He won't leave her alone. He'll keep coming for her until you had enough and release her. Lincoln fixed his clothes. His words angered me, though. I thought you should know. Lincoln told me. That's why when Lincoln asked me to come with you, I did. For what? To get you to change your mind. I turned my attention to Lincoln. Did him and Jess? No, but he did kiss her. My heart pounded in my chest as the blood in veins boiled fiercely. You better not fucking lie to me, I told him. I'm serious. My eyes scanned for anything I could find of Lincoln's lies, but there was nothing. Why do you help me? I asked him. Maybe because you seem like an all right guy. He told me. And maybe I want out. I raised an eyebrow at him, and he just stared back at me with nothing more to add. What should I do first? I asked him. We need to reach my cousin Tank. If you want to side with any wolf, you side with the Blue Moons, only. They are very powerful due to their members. I nodded and unlocked the car doors for the both of us. I started the car and pulled away from my grandpa's house. Then I sped down the street. I needed to get home and fast. I'm going to drop you off at your woman's house, I told him. Are you sure? He asked me. I'll pick you up early in the morning, be ready. Lucas just lost me. I was going to protect Jessalyn with everything I got, even if I had to lose my life over it. She was mine, and I was going to protect my wife, upsetting Alias. Jessalyn. When Alias walked through the door, I smiled. To be honest, I wasn't sure he was going to make it in time. But seeing as the Chinese food was in his hand, I knew he had caught the guy. You ordered this for us? He asked. Yeah? Is that okay? Definitely. I was in the mood for Chinese food. He brought the food over and sat on the couch. He handed me my chow mein and fried rice. Then he took his food. We ate while watching Gladiator on the television. So what did you want to talk about? He asked me. I swallowed the food in my mouth and turned to him. About the baby, I told him. He sighed before he glanced my way. What about it? Did you really want it? Alias squinted his eyes at me. Maybe it was a mistake to ask him about it. Why would you ask me that? He asked. I just had to ask. He put his food down and sighed. Yeah, I did. He finally said, I wanted my baby just as much as you did. I moved closer to him and rested my head against his. I'm sorry, Alias. I apologized. For what? Accusing you for the accident. It wasn't you in that car that was at fault. Alias kissed the top of my head, and I looked up at him, letting his lips crash against mine. He then pressed his forehead to mine and sighed. I love you, Jess. He told me. Do you love me enough to try again? Alias lifted his head and stared at me. I swear, I felt like a rejection was going to happen, but he had shocked me. Yeah, I do, but only after you heal. I nodded, feeling the nervousness disappear. Alias continued eating his food. Then, once he finished, he got up from the couch. He grabbed the Chinese food that we didn't finish into the kitchen. Then he came back. I do have a question for you, Alias said as soon as he walked back in. Of course, I told him. Alias stood in front of me with his arms folded over his chest. Did you lock lips with Lucas? I squinted my eyes at him. He kissed me, if that's what you're asking. I told him. Okay. Next question. When in the fuck were you going to tell me this? I thought it didn't matter. Alias chuckled, nodding his head. So, my fiancée makes out with my enemy and she tells me that. I thought it didn't matter to bring it up me. Don't fucking do that, Alias, don't you fucking dare do that. He just stared at me. Then he turned and walked up the stairs without taking me with him. Alias. I shouted. He didn't answer. I slowly got up from the couch, groaning. Once I was able to balance myself, I walked over to the stairs. Right as I got there, Alias came down with a duffel bag in his hand. I stared at the bag, then turned my attention to him. I called Adonis and Aiden. He told me. They're on their way over here. Where are you going? My voice cracked. I have business to handle. I cleared my throat and wiped my eyes as I could feel the tears coming. I don't want you to leave, you said. You were going to leave in the morning. Anyways. Now that I know what Lincoln told was real, I have to deal with Lucas. Wait, what? Deal with him. I'll see you in a week. Alias brushed past me and headed towards the door. Alias, wait. I shouted. Alias sighed and turned to me. I slowly turned to face him and just stared at him. That time, I let the tears fall. I wanted him to see that he was hurting me. He was breaking my heart, and I hated that. I didn't want him to leave me. Please stay. I begged. I need you, Alias. Alias sighed before he dropped the bag. He walked back over to me and wrapped his arms around me, pulling me close. He has to go, he whispered to me. I'm not mad at you, but I'm pissed off that you couldn't tell me about it knowing he locked lips with you. It lets me know what his true intentions are. What? Alias looked down at me and sighed. You don't see it? He asked me. I shook my head. He wants you. He wants you as his mate. Alias released me, and I shook my head at him. That will never happen, Daddy. I'm loyal to you. Let me get rid of him. Then, I don't want him to be with you or go crazy if he does anything to you. Alias pressed himself against me, making me want him. I had to heal, I thought to myself. I will heal just to fuck him again. I wrapped my arms around him, and he leaned down, kissing me again. Just please, come back to me. I begged. I can't lose you not after our plan for a family. Alias hissed, pressing his lips to my neck. I promise, he whispered to me. I'll be back in your arms in no time, baby girl. A knock came on the door, and Alias stopped hugging me. He turned and walked to the door. EY. Adonis shouted, "What's up, bro?" Aiden asked. Then he turned to me. "Hey, Jess." "Hi," I said, leaning against the rail of the stairs. "Thanks for coming to babysit me." "Well, no problem." Adonis chuckled. I looked towards the door and saw Mia come in. "Oh, I'm here too." Mia chuckled. "Alias, I need to speak with you." Adonis told him. "Will you be okay?" Alias glanced over at me. "She'll be fine," Mia told him. Alias walked over to me again, kissing me for the final time. "I love you." Alias backed away from me before he turned and grabbed the duffel bag off the floor. "I love you." I sighed. He walked out the door with Alias and Adonis following him. "Don't worry. We're going to have fun," Mia told me. I sighed again and nodded. "What's wrong?" she asked me. I shook my head. Because of me keeping my mouth shut, Alias was angry. He didn't have to say anything, because I knew he was angry with me. I didn't know how to tell him about it, but I'm happy Lincoln told him. I would have probably kept it inside. "Nothing," I told her. "Nothing at all. Meeting up." Alias. I knocked on the door, waiting for someone to answer me. The door opened and Sasha answered the door. She looked at me with confusion. "Hey, Alias," she said. "Hi, can I come in?" I asked her. "Yeah, I'm sorry." She turned and walked off, and I followed her, closing the door behind me. I followed her into the living room, where I could hear children just laughing as I walked in. Lincoln got up as soon as he saw me. "You can sit down," Sasha told me. I nodded and took a seat. Lincoln grabbed both of his kids and came over to me. "Are you ready to leave?" he asked me. "Yeah," I told him. "But go ahead and spend some time with the kids. I'm sure they missed you." Lincoln nodded and hugged his kids. Sasha walked over to me and handed me a cup of blood. I grabbed it and took a sip of it. "What's going on?" Lincoln asked me. "What if?" I stopped. I had a lot of things on my nose, and I know I was going to need more people. "Before we do this, I need to talk to your brother," I told him. Lincoln shook his head and chuckled. I stared at him and continued drinking the beverage from the cup. He thought I was joking, but I wasn't. When he noticed I wasn't smiling, he shook his head at me. "That's a no-go," Lincoln told me. "My brother doesn't like vampires." Sasha sat next to Lincoln and turned to me. "What do you have up your sleeve, Alias?" Lincoln asked me. "I don't know," I told him, rubbing the stubble under my chin. "It's just something that popped up when Jessalyn told me Lucas kissed her." "That got you heated, huh?" I downed the cup and got up, taking it to the kitchen. I washed it out before I placed the cup on the dish rack. "What if I call my brother? Will you tell us about your idea?" he asked me. "Only if he comes," I told him. "We need someone like him. Anyways." "Wait," he asked, confused. "Just call him, please," I told him. Lincoln stared at me for what seemed like the longest time. Then he sighed and turned to Sasha. "Can you get my phone, please?" he asked her. "Sure, baby." She got up. Then she turned to the kids. "Night-night, guys." The kids said in unison. They were sad, and I felt bad taking away their time from him. Lincoln kissed his kids good night, and they left with their mother. "Can you get him to meet up with us?" I asked. Lincoln nodded. Sasha came out the room with his phone and handed it to him. He sighed as he dialed his brother's number. Don't think my brother is going to be welcoming, Lincoln told me. Then he turned his attention to his phone. Hello. Yeah, Mason. It's Lincoln. Look, something's come up and I need you to meet me. Lincoln glanced my way, and the way he rolled his eyes, I knew his brother was giving him problems. So I decided to listen in on their conversation. What do you want, Lincoln? Mason asked him. The guy I was with when you showed up wants to talk to you. For what? And where the hell are you? I am at Sasha's house. There was silence. Why the fuck would you go there and you know it's forbidden? Mason asked through gritted teeth. Because I wanted to see my kids, bro. I don't care. If Lucas finds out, he's going to harm her. You need to leave now. Will you meet up with us once I do? Yes, just leave her house. Man, I can't believe you went over there as that fanger there too. Yeah, he brought me over here because he had to handle things with his girl. I could hear the sigh on his end of the phone. Where are we meeting at? Masona asked. Lincoln turned to me. Where are we meeting? He asked. Tell him we'll meet under the southbound freeway. I told Lincoln. Lincoln turned his attention back to the phone. Southbound freeway. He told him. Yeah, and come alone. Don't pull that shit you did earlier yet. All right. Bye. Lincoln hung up the phone and got off the couch. He turned to Sasha and the two of them kissed. I couldn't lie. I missed Jessalyn at that time and moment. I love you. Sasha told him. I love you, baby. Lincoln walked to the door, and I nodded my head to Sasha before following behind him. We walked out of the house, and Lincoln stopped and turned to me. I have your word that you won't say anything about me being with her, do I? He asked me. Why would I snitch about this? I asked. What Lucas is doing is wrong. Lincoln raised his eyebrow at me and aside. You have my word. I told him. Happy? Not really. Lincoln grunted. Let's go. We walked over to my car, ready to head to the freeway. Where's he? I asked. He'll be here. Lincoln told me. After he said that, a truck pulled up to where we were. Lincoln and I got out the car and stood in front of it. Mason got out and sighed. He stopped beside his truck and stared at Lincoln before his eyes burned a hole into mine. You got a lot of nerves calling me out here, fanger. Mason stated. Again, stop with the insults. I told him. I didn't disrespect your ass. I don't care. You should. Brother, look. Lincoln chimed in. Alias has something he wanted to talk to you about. I don't want to hear it, and you. Why are you bringing him around Sasha and the kids? You know better. We were forbidden from seeing them. Are you trying to get them killed? It wasn't his fault. I stepped in. We went to this restaurant and she happened to see him. It wasn't like he was looking we had business to handle. Mason stared at me before he rolled his eyes and turned to his brother. How are they? Mason asked Lincoln. They're getting bigger. Lincoln told him. Did it feel good to see her? Yeah, it did. That's what I wanted to talk to you about. Mason glanced over at me without speaking. Because of the past that me and him has, he's jeopardizing you guys for it. I stated. It was your fault. Mason told me. You shouldn't have fucked with her. And I apologize for that. He held my fiancée hostage and tried to put me on this fucking mission. The thing is, I'm not doing it. Lincoln groaned. If you don't do this mission, I can't come back. Lincoln explained to me. Yeah, that's the point. I told him. What are you getting at? Are you trying to go against him? Because if that's what you're implying, then that's exactly what I'm implying. Lincoln backed up, standing next to his brother. Even Mason was shocked when I told them I planned. So, this was your plan? Lincoln asked me, are you trying to die? Lucas has a big pack. And just like you told me before, there's a pack that's small, but very powerful. So, you want help from us and the Blue Moon? Mason asked, can I get it? Mason chuckled, shaking his head. Lincoln didn't say anything. He just raised an eyebrow at me. I hope you know that's suicide, right? Lincoln asked, not if we have good allies. Mason stopped chucking and pulled out his phone. What are you doing? Lincoln asked his brother. Making some calls. Mason said, I'm sorry, little brother, but I wanted out of Lucas' pack when he banned his daughter from being with me. He put the phone up to his ear and walked away. Lincoln glanced back at me and nodded his head. Mason came back over and glanced at his brother. If you want this to work, we're going to have to make a couple trips. Mason told me. We got the time. I told him. Good, we'll spend the night at a hotel. But first thing tomorrow morning, we're going to go to Los Angeles. So, I suggest you let the other family members know your plan. Lincoln told me. Before I could even call Adonis, he was already calling me. I answered it and smiled. Where are you? Adonis asked me. Out. I told him. Why? Dude, what's wrong with you? Nothing. Really, Alias. I thought we were closer than that. You're barely around and this shit with Lucas is getting older by the books. I stepped away to continue the phone call. What are you getting at? I asked Adonis. When will my cousin be back? Adonis asked me. We don't hang out like that, an Emor man. I sighed. It's true that I had left the family behind to handle business, but they weren't trying to help me. It was like I had to do everything myself. I'll make it up to you. I told him. Right now is not a good time for it. Will you let me know what's going on at least? Yeah, I was just about to call you to let you know. Well, let me in. I sighed before I let everything out on the table. Done deal. Alias. Wake up. I heard someone shout. I opened my eyes and sat up in the hotel bed. A hard knock came on the door, and Lincoln went to answer it. He moved out of the way, and Adonis walked in with Aiden behind him. You're always coming up with some crazy shit, Adonis told me as he walked over to my side of the bed. I got up and we both hugged. Then I turned to Aiden. Who's with Jessalyn? I asked him. Mia and Natalie. He answered. I raised an eyebrow at him. Why is Natalie at my house? She's been helping with Jessalyn. Aiden told me. She's been very helpful. Adonis told me before his eyes moved to Aiden. At first I didn't get it, so I brushed it past me and walked over to where my clothes were. Mason was already dressed and Lincoln was as well. I threw my clothes back on and Adonis chuckled. What? I asked him. Today is not workday, dude. Adonis laughed. You need comfortable clothing. Mason told me. I grabbed you some. Aiden told me. You went through my clothes. I asked him. Aiden tossed the bag at me and I grabbed it, glaring at him. We leave in 20. Mason said as him and Lincoln left the room. The two left and I took the bag with me to the bathroom. I got dressed as fast as I could and threw my other clothes in the bag. Then I walked out of the bathroom with some regular sweats and a t-shirt on. I sat on the bed and threw my sneakers on before I got up, ready to go. You okay? Adonis asked me. I looked up at him and nodded. Then my eyes looked over at my brother. When I told you the plan, it should have been you coming alone. I told him. I wanted to come. Aiden told me. You could need me. Oh, so you care now. I've been Alias. What the hell, bro? Don't call me that. I bumped into Aiden, walking out of the hotel room. As I did, something caused me to stop. I sniffed the air as that familiar scent hit my nose. Let's go, Adonis said. They're waiting for me. Without a word, I walked out and headed towards my car. Lincoln ran over to me and tapped the roof of my car. Follow Mason. Lincoln told me. You're not riding with him. I asked him. Yeah, I am. I just came to let you know. All right, I got you. We didn't drive, so you already have company. Adonis told me as he walked over to the passenger side. My eyes shifted to Aiden, who wouldn't look me in the face. Fine, I told them. Get in. I unlocked the door and the three of us hopped in. Mason drove off first, and I started my car, following right behind him. How is she? I asked Adonis. Jessalyn. He asked me. She's good. Natalie's been giving arnica for the pain shit's been working for her. My eyes shifted to my brother's through the rearview mirror. He rolled his eyes at me and looked out the back window. Whatever happens, stay out of it, okay? I said to Adonis. I already know. Adonis told me. I put my eyes back on the road. Los Angeles. I didn't even know we were that close to each other. Mason and I pulled up to a fast food restaurant, and all of us got out. We need to stop and get some blood. I sighed. Mason and Lincoln turned to me. You all right? Lincoln asked. We're almost there. We need blood. Adonis told him. Mason nodded. This place is vampire and wolf friendly. Mason told us. So, you can order something. I nodded, and the three of us followed Lincoln and Mason into the restaurant. What can I get you guys? A waitress asked. I sighed, licking my lips before I turned to the menu. He needs blood. Adonis told her. We have some. She told me. Would you like a cup pitcher? 4 pitchers, please. I asked her. She chuckled, then turned to Mason and Lincoln. Go get his stuff and come back to us. Lincoln told her. Absolutely, she said. She walked off and I laid my head down on the table. I bet you won't do that again. Adonis chuckled. Fuck you, I told him. Well, that's your fault. Aiden told me. His words caused me to raise my head up. Once I felt better, I was going to exchange some words with him outside. He already pissed me off for showing his fucking face around me. Here you go, the waitress said, putting 4 pitchers on the table. I snatched one up and guzzled the beverage down my god. Blood has never tasted that good. I put the first empty pitcher down and went for another one. Once I finished that one, I pushed the other 2 over to the bastard and my cousin. Now, what can I get you guys to eat? The waitress asked. We ordered our food, and once she left, I turned my attention to Mason. How close are you to your cousin? I asked him. Not closer than him and Lincoln. Mason sighed. I can understand that. He might piss you off, though. My cousin is very disrespectful, and he always wants to fight. Then, they have something in common. Aiden snickered. Mason, and I turned to Aiden, and Aiden went back to his phone. Since you felt like opening your mouth, maybe you can help me out with this. I told Aiden. Why was Natalie at my house? Because she wanted to help your fiancé. Aiden told me. The way he said it was annoying. It was like he was trying to brag about something. Aiden stopped. Adonis told him. Alias, not here. What, Adonis? You know something I don't. Adonis sighed and leaned back in his seat. Why was she there? I asked. Because she felt bad about everything that was happening, so she begged Jess to let her stay. Aiden told me. That's not what I wanted to hear. Adonis. I asked. Dude, I don't even know she came out of the blue to the house. I reached into my pocket and pulled my phone out. Since they weren't trying to tell me anything, I decided to ask the source behind it. I dialed Jessalyn's number and pressed the phone to my ear. Baby, hi. Jessalyn said with excitement. You have something to tell me, my beautiful Finnessy. I asked her. What? What's wrong? Why is Natalie at my house? And why the fuck does my brother smell like her? Alias, don't. Don't what, baby? I don't know what you're talking about. Jessalyn smacked her lips on the other end, and my eyes was glued onto my brother's face, who didn't say anything. So, you had to ask your woman. He asked me. You were acting stupid. So, I needed to ask someone smarter than you. You know what? Fuck you, Alias. Fuck you. Why the fuck are you even here? Alias, stop. Jessalyn shouted on the phone. You might need him. That's why he came. No, he's coming back with you. I remember asking for Adonis, but not him. Whatever. Adonis got up from the table, and I got up as well. Jess, I'll call you back. I said into the phone. Alias, PL. I hung up before she could finish. I followed my brother outside of the restaurant. Are you going to start talking now? I asked him. He didn't respond. Don't make me ask you again. What, Alias? What the fuck you want me to say? Be a man and tell me. Aiden turned around to face me. I stood a few feet away from him. What do you want? He asked me. I want the truth. What? You want to know about what? Stop playing fucking games. Aiden stared at me and shook his head. You're not with her, so it doesn't matter. Oh, but you are. You smell her scent on me, right? I didn't say anything. Why even care? She's not yours. You fucked her in my house. Yeah, I did. On your couch. My hand reacted too fast. I balled my fist up and slammed it into Aiden's face. Aiden fell back against my car, causing the alarm to go off. I reached into my pocket and pressed the alarm button on the clicker to make the alarm stop. Aiden spit the blood on the ground before he snapped his eyes in my direction. You still care about her, don't you? Fuck her. And fuck you too. Man, fuck you. You thought she was going to stick around for you. What the fuck you thought this was? My heart was pacing and my blood was boiling like a hot pot of water. I moved closer to him and slammed my fist onto my car door. My phone began to go off, and I already knew who it was, but I didn't answer it. I'm not mad about you finding love in my leftovers, I said, trying to calm down. I'm pissed that you disrespected my house doing it. It just happened. I cut him off with the motion of my fingers. I don't care how it happened, but it did. As of today, starting now, I don't want nothing to do with you, and I don't want nothing to do with her, either. I pushed off him, and I could see the hurt on his face as I turned around to walk back. You never had a relationship with me, anyways, Aiden stated. You're right about that, I told him, turning back to face him. Now, let's make it indefinitely. Alias. Go home, Aiden. Aiden shook his head before he disappeared. My phone was just going off, and I sighed before I grabbed it once more from my pocket and answered it. Alias, baby. Jessalyn, sounded worried. Baby, Natalie is not allowed at my house anymore. Alias, baby, I need her. I don't care, she better be gone by the time I get back. Jessalyn sighed. Yes, baby. I love you. And I love you. I hung up the phone and walked back into the restaurant. As I got closer to the table, I could feel tension there. Adonis looked up at me and turned to the window. Where's Aiden? Adonis asked. I made him go home. I told him, then I turned to Lincoln. Baby, calm down. Lincoln told her. What happened? His facial expression was anything but happy. Fuck. Lincoln shouted. Okay, baby, please, just calm down. I'll come back, okay? No, don't be, baby. This is my fault. I'll come back, I'll see you in a minute. He hung up and slammed his phone down. I sat down and turned to. What happened? I asked. You guys shouldn't have went over there. Mason told Lincoln. What? Lincoln sighed. Lucas came to her house. Lincoln told me. We shouldn't have went there. Okay. I told them. We need to move her somewhere else. How about bringing her to your house? Adonis suggested to me. She can, and I'll tell the family about it, including the higher-ups. I told him. No, she's not. I want her to feel comfortable and treated right. Mason said. She has kids as well. I nodded and we got up. Let's go get her and bring her to my house. I told them. We can decide there. Are we even allowed at your house? Mason asked. Of course. I told him. You guys are guests, not enemies. Everybody got up from the table, and we all walked out of the place together. We were heading back to Las Vegas that very night. Natalie and Amp. Alias. Jessalyn. Why? I haven't done anything wrong. Natalie folded her arms over her chest and shook her head. I understood what she was feeling. Before I could even tell her any more, my phone rang in my hand. I glanced down at my screen and sighed when Alias' name popped up. I pressed the green button and placed the phone to my ear. Yes, baby. I answered the phone. We have someone with us, a female with 2 children. He told me. She's going to be staying in the guest room until we deal with Lucas. A woman. Yes, love. Okay, also Nat. Is she still there? Yes, she is. I don't see why she has to leave Alias. Fine, I'll deal with her myself. Alias hung up the phone and I sighed. What did he say? She asked me, hoping for something good. He'll deal with you when he gets here. Her eyes widened and she shook her head. Fine, Natalie said, then walked over to the couch and took a seat. I'll wait until he gets here. I wouldn't do that if I were you. I told her. Alias, he's very confident in things, he says. I don't care, he's mad at me, for what? I haven't done anything to him. Mia was going to say something, but I stopped her. I needed to let her know why he was angry. Alias discovered that you and Aiden had sex. I told her. Mia whistled. You slept with your ex's brother. She asked. How the hell did that happen? It just did. Natalie told us. Did it mean anything? I asked her. I don't even know. I'm sure to Aiden it did. I told her. It just happened fast. We were talking and laughing. Then he kissed me and then. Yeah, that's how it goes. Mia chuckled. I rolled my eyes at her. Well, she wasn't wrong. It was true. Do you see yourself with Aiden? I asked her. Well, he treats me better than Alias, so that's probably what I liked about him. Then, I think you need to tell Alias that, right now. He's pissed off, because you fucked his brother in his house. But I think he will listen to what you have to say. Tell him how you feel. Huh, you must not know Alias that much. He's very hard to reason with. Then, you need to go home. I'm not scared of Alias, and he knows that I'm going to be here when he gets back, regardless of what he says to you. Mia and I looked at each other. Natalie sat there with her arms folded over her chest and her legs crossed, one over the other. When I heard a couple car doors open and close, my anxiety kicked in. I hope Alias didn't put his hands on her. That was a big worry for someone who would do anything to get out of the house. I heard chattering as it got closer to the door. Alias' voice was one of them. I walked to the door and opened it. Okay, we can figure that out now. Alias told the guys as soon as he walked in. Alias looked at me, and I smiled before I slowly made my way over to him. We shared a kiss, then he pulled away and turned to Natalie. I told you to leave. Alias told her. Not until you explain to me why. Natalie told him. Alias stared at her with an angry expression. Fine. Alias told her. When I get back downstairs, we'll talk. Fine. I watched as the two glared at each other. It made me feel some kind of way due to the fact that I've never seen Alias angry over something Aiden was doing or who he was doing. Alias walked off, storming up the stairs. I wanted to follow him, but I really couldn't due to the surgery I had ahead, so I stayed downstairs with the guest. Lincoln was sitting next to a dark-skinned girl who had both of her kids close to her. I walked over to them, and the kids, of course, hugged on to their mother. I'm sorry if I frightened them. I told her. They're not really fond of vampires. The woman told me. I looked at her confused. I'm not a vampire. You're human. Yes. I told her. With a vampire. That's weird. No weirder than a woman sleeping with a wolf. She smiled. Ha touche. She laughed. I'm Sasha. I extended my hand out to her and she grabbed it. Jessalyn. I introduced myself. I'm Lincoln and this is my brother Mason. Lincoln told me. Nice to meet you too. I smiled. Mason nodded. Then he began messing with the little boy and girl. God, I haven't seen them in years. He sighed. You guys ready? Alias asked. Don't you have something to handle? I asked him. What? Alias asked. Then he turned to Natalie. Natalie stared at Alias and Alias rolled his eyes before he walked over towards the front door. Let's talk. Alias told her. I want to hear what you have to say. Natalie got up and followed Alias outside. I watched the door close and then I sighed. They were being weird, especially Alias, who had the most anger in him. You okay? Mia asked me. No. I told her as I slowly walked over to the couch and sat down. I turned my attention to the outside and watched the two converse about whatever it was that they wanted to talk about. Is that his ex? Sasha asked me. I turned to her, nodded. Girl, you're good. I would not even let my husband's ex near him at all. I try to be okay with them, but seeing them together makes it harder and harder each day. Have you told them? It's nothing to really tell. It is. Mason told me. Don't hold it in. Mia sat on the couch beside me and rubbed my leg. I smiled at her before I turned back to the window, watching the two. New plan. Alias. We walked by the cars and I leaned against it, staring at Natalie. What do you have to say to me? I asked her. Why? Natalie asked. Why what? Why am I putting you out of my house? Nat, come on. I was helping her wife out. I chuckled. Is that all? Because it's funny how when my brother came to me, I could smell your scent all over him, so please, lie to me again. Natalie didn't say anything. Yeah, we had sex, Alias. She admitted. I shook my head. Yeah, that angered me. I didn't know why, but it did. I nodded and walked past her. She tried to grab my arm, but I pulled away from her. Will you talk to me? She asked me. Go to your man's house and stay the fuck away from mine. I told her, pointing down the street. Why are you like this? Because I can be. You and my brother disrespected my house. The audacity of both of you. I swear to fucking God, Natalie. Don't come over here no more. I walked off and Natalie chugged something at me. Good thing I was able to turn, but still, that pissed me off even more. Throw something else. I warned her. I already know why you're mad, Alias. She said. Oh, really? And why is that? Because you're jealous you're mad that your brother, is fing me now your brother, has everything I want in a man that I could never find in you. Be honest. Those words annoyed me. My brother was a better man than me. Fuck no. Nobody was better than me. Especially that fucking bitch, Aiden. So, I decided to drop the conversation. Go ahead and leave. I told her. I don't want to see your face anymore. Alias. I waved my hand as I turned and walked back to the house. She rushed over to me and pulled my arm. Let me stay and help your wife at least. She begged. I'll be gone once she is better. See, that's the difference between my wife and you. I smirked. And what's that? She already has help. You don't the only support you have is my dumbass bastard brother. She released me and I walked back into my house. I slammed the door closed and turned to Jessalyn. Do you always have to be rude? She asked me. I turned to her and smiled. What I need to be. I told her. I walked over to her and placed my lips onto hers. Don't bring her back to my house. I told her. Okay. I turned to the guest in the kitchen and sighed. Okay, let's do this. I told them. So, I'll stay here. Sasha asked. Would that even be okay? Your wife and your family will be here, and I know they're going to get tired of seeing my face. No, we won't. Jessalyn told her. We welcome everybody. I don't care if your husband is Wolf. You're accepting me, even though my fiancé is a vampire. True. Adonis added. Besides, you'll be safer we have family in the higher-ups. Our parents and other family members would fight as well. My Uncle Cain would fight as well. Most definitely. I told them. Matter of fact, call them so they could know what's going on. Adonis reached into his pocket and grabbed his phone. While he made the call, I turned my attention to Mason. Have you reached out to your cousin? I asked him. Yeah, but he didn't answer. Mason told me. Does he normally answer? Adonis asked as he came back to us. They're on their way. Good. Normally, but something must have happened. I think we need to go to them. I told them. What about Lucas? Lincoln asked. We're going to meet with him to let him know we're not doing the mission. Mason chuckled. Good luck, he said. That guy doesn't take no for an answer. Besides, we need to figure out how we're going to get my cousin involved. Maybe have them come to us. Adonis suggested. A knock came on the door, and Jessalyn went to answer it. Hi, Cain and Naomi, Jessalyn said. Adonis and I turned around as we saw the family come in. Uncle Kieran walked in with his wife and Grandpa Kirk walked in with Grandma Lorraine. Everybody's here. I asked Adonis. Yeah. He answered. Where's Aiden? Not here. I told him. Invite him. Nope. I tried to turn around, but Father stopped me. Invite your brother now, he demanded. I rolled my eyes and turned to Adonis. He was going to make the call, but Father stopped him. You call him. I sneered as I reached into my pocket and dialed the bastard's number. Placing the phone to my ear, I listened to the dial tone until Aiden picked up. What? Aiden answered the phone. Father wants you to come to my house. I told him. For what? That's what I asked. I guess I'll be over there in a minute. Whatever. I hung up the phone and walked away from Father. He agitated me with that one. I hated him for it. He knew I hated Aiden, but he didn't know that Aiden went after my ex. That right there was a no-go. He could have found him someone else to fuck on. Not a minute later, Aiden walked into the house. Hey, Mom, Aiden said, hugging our mother, and then he turned to Father. Hey, Dad, we're going to talk after this. Father told him and me. There's nothing to talk about. There's a lot we need to talk about. I turned my eyes to my father, who just stood there staring at me. Aiden stood beside him as well. There's nothing to talk about. I told him. I'm going to take Sasha and the kids. Jessalyn chimed in as she walked into the kitchen. Yeah, that'll be best. Sasha agreed as she got up from the chair. Let's go, James and Lena. She walked over to the living room, while us men stayed in the kitchen. So, do you plan on taking on Lucas yourself? Mason asked, changing the subject. I turned to him and nodded. I want to meet with him, one-on-one. I told him. That's suicide. Lincoln told me. Everybody knows that Lucas doesn't fight fair. Who said I was going to come alone? Okay, what's this plan you got? Mason asked. My ears are open. I smirked at him. Good, because you're going to be with me during the meetup. I told